people are tired. We want a safe Seattle, and it is showing.
That's Victoria Beach, chair of the Seattle Police Department's African American Community Advisory Council. And coming up, we'll hear some straight talk from Victoria about the recent city council election, gun violence in Seattle, and the direction of the city. Welcome, everybody, once again to Chino Y Chicano.
I'm Matt Chan, the Chino.
And I'm Enrique Cerna, the Chicano. Victoria Beach is very blunt and straightforward in the conversation that we had with her, talking about the city council elections and all the issues of gun violence in Seattle and our whole political structure and dealing with this thing. But she's very pleased that moderates have been elected to the council. One that wasn't, although I suppose she might have an outside chance of still maybe being named to the council in a position later, and that is Tanya Wu, who you supported and you were backing in her campaign.
You know, people say it's moderate stuff. All these people are still way left, right?
Yeah,
they're just not extreme left.
That's
I
right.
mean, when your boundaries are defined on one side by Sawant, and then Bruce Harold is considered like so conservative, but even Bruce is way left compared to most.
Oh, sure.
So I think what it was a kind of a shift back to normalcy. And the one thing that is interesting about Victoria is that she does speak for the community. And that's what the voice that is missing so often is the actual community. You know, I hear all these activists, saying, you're killing Black people, your policies are doing this, you're doing that. And they're speaking for people they have no right to speak for. That's what bothers me most.
Yeah. And I think you have to look at this is really a shift of the council from the left to the center. Where I really,
not even the center, like left of center.
Yeah, it's center left, but because most people in Seattle tend to be on the left and Democratic and that type of thing. Not to say that Republicans don't exist here, but they do. But the fact is that the council had gone so far off to the left, it was out of left field. Let's put it that way. So there's definitely going to be a shift here in how things are going to be, I think, perceived in the future, the direction of the council. And on public safety, I think, the message is that people want police. They're against any talk of defunding because it obviously didn't work, and it only made matters worse because we have a big staffing issue with Seattle police. That's one thing that the Victoria points out, but definite shift in this city as far as where the council, I think, is going to be going. Here now is our conversation with Victoria Beach.
People are tired. We want a safe Seattle.
It's real interesting to me because, I got really involved with the various communities, working, full disclosure, I worked on Tanya Wu's campaign. And one of the things that kind of was disturbing to me was the amount that the progressive left, which is predominantly young white people,
right,
continuously use people of color as victims to present their case. And the more people I talk to, people of color, they're kind of sick of it. I mean, what's your read on that?
Exactly. And I've been saying this and confronting them since the murder of George Floyd. You don't speak for us. You don't know what's best for us. Let us speak. If you want to help us, you follow our lead. And if we want you to speak, we'll tell you. But don't speak for us, because you everything you says is not what we want. I mean, it's the opposite. And I mean, that really infuriates me. It's they don't even live. I mean, they don't live in our neighborhood,
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting too, in talking to Marty Jackson. I mean, she said that a lot of the programs that are in place do work, but it's a matter of continuity, that as administrations change, as council representation changes, that these programs come and go. And so there's not the consistency. Is that what is that what the communities are looking for? Is more consistency in policy?
Yeah, and by the way, I was going to mention that Marty heads up the Southeast network and involved in kind of anti-crime efforts in the South End. Go ahead.
What programs are you talking about?
Well, just, investing in youth and those types of programs.
Yes. Well, and I won't name the youth prevention programs, but they're not working. The city has thrown out millions, and I mean millions of dollars to these agencies that are supposed to work towards youth prevention. Nothing has been done, and they're not accountable for their money. The money's going to the wrong groups. Or if they're going to continue, be accountable for the money. I can think of different groups that money should go to, like Detective Cookie.
Mhm.
Pour money into the chess program. CD Panther kids, that's prevention. Having the kids play football. Pour money into that. A lot of those coaches put their own money out for these kids for uniforms and helmets. There are a lot of agencies, but
So where's the money going?
I don't know.
So do you want to see funding then going specifically for youth efforts to keep young people busy in the community, through sports or activities, that kind of thing? You think it's more effective than having a community outreach that goes to the community to try to quell violence?
Our kids don't have things to do. Remember late night, there's not a lot of late night places, and just building more programs to support our kids so that you're not busy with your kids, somebody else is going to bring them along and join them.
The more the community feels unsafe, the earlier things close, and the earlier things close leaves many more hours for young people to kind of get into areas they shouldn't be getting into.
Yeah.
Right. That is so true. And, but the other thing is, besides, having places for our youth, we have to volunteer. Also, Garfield had a boo bash or something the Friday before Halloween, and they were scrambling to get people to volunteer and help. We need to invest in our kids, and a few hours, 2 or 3 hours of our time, we could be saving some of these kids.
Let's talk about how long you've been doing this work as the chair of Seattle Police Department's African American Advisory Council. I know that the SPD has a number of councils with different communities of color. How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing it 5 years. It's touchy because a lot of the community doesn't trust the police, and I didn't want that stigma on me, which it is. And so I said no. And the captain at the time at the East Precinct came to me one day and said, the reason why we want you is because you'll call BS on the police, and we listen, and your community. And you have brought us together. And so I said, I'll do it for 2 months. And I'm here 5 years later. And I get it. I don't blame anybody for not wanting to do it because, I've been called a traitor, a cop lover, and which I'm not. And I don't really sometimes feel like I don't have to defend myself because I know who I am. And a lot of the community knows who I am. And I just want to bridge the gap, and I want to give my community a platform where they're able to speak freely and to even talk to police on what they don't like and what has happened to them. That my community still comes first to me, and a lot of people have come around and they support me now. My community does support me.
Why hasn't somebody else stepped up after you doing it, filling the 2-month effort and then going on for 5 years?
Because they don't want to be connected with SPD, and it's a lot of work. I mean, it's a lot of work. My phone sometimes will ring at midnight for people wanting help or whatever. It's a lot, and the main thing is they don't want to be connected with the police.
And is your role in this completely volunteer?
No, it was, and I quit. because it just became too much. And the chief asked me what would take for me to come back, and I said I need to be paid if I'm around the clock. So yeah,
it is a paid position then. Okay, so what is the issue about the trust? I mean, obviously we know that in communities of color there's always been this distrust of the police, but what do you see stands out to try to bridge that gap?
Racial profiling and being treated unfairly. You know, I share with people, and I also work with new recruits, and I share my history on why I didn't trust the police and I hated them. I had family members beat up, nobody killed, thank God, but I mean, beat up pretty bad. And when I was 17, I was called the N word by several officers. And, I share this, but I don't like sharing it because I don't want to disrespect my parents. And they have both passed, but I grew up in a home with domestic violence. And this was in the 60s. And they would come, and they would beat my dad up. I mean, really beat him up in front of us. And it's like, I just hated them all my life. I hated them. And my dad would always get out of jail, come back with a black eye and busted lip. And so that was my first impression. And yeah, I had a nephew beat up so bad they knocked his pants off of him, and he was covered in blood in front of his mom. And she tapped one on the shoulder and said, "You're going to kill him." They threw her, broke her arm. I have many stories like that. And so the community, I'm sure they have the same stories. And I don't blame anybody for not being where I am. I've gotten to a point where I can't blame all police. They're not all bad. Are there some? Yes, definitely. But I've gotten to know a lot of them. And it's hard building that trust. I get triggered sometimes. I was at a meeting the other night and they showed a video and I had to leave. I got triggered by it. And then it makes me go back and I think I'm quitting. I don't support any of them. But we have a long history of being abused by Seattle police. And so I got involved with I was a block watch captain and just started going to meetings and thinking I've met a lot of nice officers. And so I get it when the community didn't trust. And then things come up like the video that came out with the vice president and president of SPOG that made those remarks about
the young woman that was
that sets us back. Everything sets us back. And I'm sorry that it's taken out on all police that don't agree what was happened. But
yeah, and this was a young woman that was of I believe East Indian descent, and she had been hit actually by a police vehicle who was speeding toward I guess another response, and an officer made some very insensitive comments. I mean, beyond insensitive, which obviously doesn't help anything at all when you have that come out. Yeah.
No, I even have family members of mine that don't want me doing the work I do. I'm at every event. I'm at, I have had parents reach out to me that have lost kids to gun violence. And I mean, sometimes I feel like, oh, I need a debrief. I need somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
But
well, you almost by default become the first touch point then. I mean, what's it like? How do you console a parent that's lost a child to violence?
Oh my gosh. Sit and listen and hug them. I had one father 2 years ago reach out to me. And usually they connect with each other, but this father did not want to be in the group of parents that have lost kids to gun violence. And that was the first time I heard, and I don't use the word cry anymore, weep. And it was just, I felt, seriously, I felt like I needed therapy, hearing him weep and tell his story. And sometimes I feel like I'm not doing much. I'm just listening. About months later, I got a text message from him, and he said, "Thank you." He says, "You don't know what you did for me. You got me through that night." And of course, that made me cry. And I really didn't do much. And I check on him every now and then. And um, yeah, it's just heartbreaking.
But sometimes listening is the most important thing, I think,
Yeah,
for anybody that's dealing with some type of just traumatic situation. So, for you to do that, I know it's tough all the way around, but someone has to be there. So,
yeah.
thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me ask you this. You know, we have seen just this year the violence and the gun violence and homicides in Seattle. It's gained national attention, and I've told Matt this sometimes. I just feel like my head is on a swivel sometimes when I go out. What is going on here from your perspective?
One thing we already talked about, there's no place for our youth. And I feel like they get picked up by gang members. The other thing is, with that whole defunding crap, we lost half of our police department. And so I think not only with the gun violence, I think a lot of crimes, they know that there aren't enough police to be out there. And yeah, I feel like they everybody knows, who's gonna show up. Have you guys heard of Shot Spotter?
Yes.
Yes.
So, and a lot of people don't want it, and I understand, but it's been proven. Detroit, um, a lot of places, Philadelphia, a lot of these cities have it, and it's proven to work. It shows you where gunfire is. It tells you what type of gun, how many guns, and they go exactly to the spot. So bringing that in, I think that would help identify the cars or whatever. And I brought ShotSpotter to Seattle a year ago, and I had people that were so against it that they came to say, no, we don't want it. And they were there, they explained it, and everybody left there wanting it. So before anybody shoots it down, get educated. The ACLU had Zoom meeting to shoot it down. And I guess not very many people showed up. And it's a trial. If it doesn't work, then we can say it doesn't work. But if it saves one life, it's worth it. And I was in Columbia City yesterday, and I walked by, and so many businesses had their windows broken out.
Mm.
Uh, and I was talking to them about it, and I said, it doesn't detect this type of stuff, but they said, we don't care, we want it, because knowing that cameras are, maybe they won't shoot in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
But it's out of control. We're losing too many kids, and that's what the community should be worried about. We need to save our children.
This is a pilot project, the Shot Spotter, and it's a tool that's meant to combat gun violence. They use acoustic sensors to record the sound of gunfire and then try to determine then the origin of it. And so they're on top of buildings and I guess street lights. And so the idea is to try this as a pilot project, right? In order to see how well it works. The opposition to this, is this because they feel like it's an invasion of privacy?
Right. And I get it too. I get the other side too. But our kids' lives are more important to worry about am I being watched? If you have a smartphone, you're being watched already and heard. But it's and they're not on all the time. They come on when there's shots fired. And a lot of people don't believe that, but that's how it works. There's 4 neighborhoods they want to put them in where the most of the gun violence is happening.
Right.
Let's just try it, and we have nothing to lose.
I think that people right now are at a point where they're thinking, we got to do something. I mean, we know that our staffing issue is right at the top part of this for police. And there is a sense, I think, of public safety insecurity right now that is really driving, I think, a lot of people. And I think we're probably seeing that in these council races where, they're really looking at that. One other issue that came up recently was the use of a ruse by the police department. And actually it was Omari Salisbury from Converge Media, who we're proud to be part of Converge, that through a public safety, a public information request, he was actually, on the streets during the protests and heard this call that was some issue regarding the Proud Boys, and it actually turned out to be a fake call that the police department had used. And I want to get totally details about that. But basically, it was, now they've set a policy against the limitation of kind of, the police can still do some of this stuff, but they don't want, there's a limit as to what they could do. Did you support that?
Yeah, actually, I just like Omari, I lived down at CHOP. I was there day and night, and I happened to be there when that came up about the Proud Boys. And I was with a friend, and I heard that, and I told my friend, "Oh, I'm out of here." And he was like, "No, let's stay." I go, "Well, you're white, I'm black. My life's in danger." And so I went up to a line of police officers, and I said, "Are the Proud Boys here?" And they go, "Yes, they're not down here yet. They're in Volunteer Park working their way down." So I was told the same thing. And then I called a lieutenant that I know and asked her, and she said, "Yes, go home." I heard a statement saying that it made people get their guns and stuff. And I disagree with that, because everybody had a gun. I never seen so many guns, assault rifles in my life. Everybody down there they were armed.
Both sides, everybody, right?
Everybody. And my kids were having a fit because they didn't want me down there, but I was down there because I wanted to see for myself what was happening. I think saying the Proud Boys were down there probably made people think, "All right, come on, come down, because we're ready for you."
So it could have made the whole thing worse, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Turning back to safety, I mean, one of the things that, and I'm surprised it didn't generate more outrage. And then maybe it's because, oh yeah, that's just the South End. When the daycare center at 23rd and Jackson was shot up, and you had babies, army crawling to the bathroom for safety. And yet there wasn't, there was kind of turmoil around that, but not the lasting kind of impact you would expect. If it happened in the North End at a white daycare, right? You'd have the National Guard out there.
Yep.
So when will the city officials, do you think, start taking the problems in the South End serious? Because they are different than the rest of the city, because it is a result of redlining, racist policies. Everything, and yet it's like, it's just South End.
I so agree with you. I think, especially with Joy Hollingsworth as a new council member, I think we're going to see a change. I think we're going to see the focus and how urgent it is to save our people,
Yes.
And I think that it's coming. I'm good friends with Joy, and we've had many talks. the past.
Yeah, but Joy only has part of South
Yeah,
Seattle.
but I think with her voice, Sarah Nelson, Rob Saka, I think we're going to see a huge change. They're passionate about the safety of our communities, and so I have no doubt that great things are going to happen for our people.
Right now, you've got your finger on the pulse of what's going on. What is the current kind of relationship? I know it's always tenuous, but the relationship between the communities of the South End, the poorer, I mean, we're not talking Seward Park, Lakewood and stuff, but, hardcore South Seattle. What's the relationship with the police? Do they want more policing? Do they want more investigators? What is that relationship like? And is it workable?
Yes, I everybody that I'm connected with in the South End, they want more police. They want ShotSpotter. The relationship is healing. Some people may say no, but not only in South Seattle, the Central District, what is left of the Black community, they all want policing. I brought up the CD Panthers before. They play in Junkins Park, and 2 years last year, there were 2 years in a row that there were shootings while our young kids were playing. And
I remember that. Yeah.
Yes, and they wanted the police, and now they have a great relationship. When you hear the progressives saying, "Oh, they don't want police," yes, we do, because we're the ones that suffer without them. So a lot of the Black community, we want to be safe, we want to be protected, just like we're living in Magnolia or Madison Park. We deserve to be protected, because with the whole loss of most of our department, we're the ones that are suffering. Just watch. We are going to see a change with the city council, but the main thing is we have to build the police department back up, and not many people are applying, and I get it why they aren't.
I was surprised at how the community comes together over public safety, because when it was revealed that there was a string of kind of home invasion robberies, immediately you could see it, right? Because they have pictures that it's Black against Asian. And, at the very best, there is tension between those two communities. Yeah. But when they convened that meeting up in Beacon Hill as in a response to it, I didn't know what to expect, but I found it very healing. People coming together. So we can work together as communities. I just wish that the ones who agitate against, for defunding the police and stuff would just get in and try to help instead of just canceling. Right.
Right. And we can work together, and just imagine how powerful we could be together.
The progressives, how will you work with them?
Well, I mean, the key one is Morales in District 2.
Yes. I'll write her. That's how I'll work with her. I'll write her,
Make her accountable.
Yes.
You're going to be on her case.
That's right. Yes. Yep. I mean, I heard that she was telling people that they could keep me quiet, or because I was affecting her campaign, because I called her out. As she says, I harassed her, but I called her out.
You're exercising your rights.
Right.
So how do we turn this around? Because our city is struggling. All of this violence it's unacceptable.
We're at the tipping point now where we are going to begin to turn it around. We have to build our police department back up, and I really don't know how that's going to happen. I work with the new recruits, and I thank all of them for wanting to join a difficult police department that has been not a lot of good things have been said, but I can tell you, I think we're about up to 100 now that we have hired. Every single one of them except one are incredible. They all want to be the change. They don't like what they've seen or heard about Seattle. They want to make a difference, and we take them to every community, the CID, the Filipino community, the Black community, and introduce them to um, the community, so they know how to work with the community, and they love it. We watch a documentary. It's called Who We Are. If you haven't,
Oh, Jeffrey Robinson.
Jeffrey Robinson. We've had him on the program. Yeah.
Oh, you have?
Yes.
So they watch that, and some of them cry, and they want to be the difference in change. And so, it takes a full year before they're out on the streets with all the training they're receiving. And this new program called Before the Badge is a 5-week program. It's on wellness, a lot of stuff, and they're going to be the change. And there are officers now in the departments that don't care for this program, because it is going to change our department for the better. My part is I take them to Black-owned businesses, and we eat in one of the restaurants, and the CID, we do the same thing. The Filipino community, there's a day they have their food bank. They help give out food. They sit and they have lunch with them. They talk about the culture. So I have to give it to the chief. This was his plan, and we're going to have a great department. We only have, I think, like 9 so far out on the streets, and I'm so proud of them.
Yeah.
And the mentality that these new officers have, there's no way that you wouldn't like them. It's a different generation.
It's a challenge, but it is. I hope that it is a generation that will realize that they can make a big difference. And I'm glad that the Jeff Robinson documentary, which is really powerful, is being used.
Yeah,
and
if anyone hasn't seen that, you need to watch that.
Right, it is. I think it's still available on Netflix. It is really, yes, it is who we are. And it is the history of racism in our country that is just so dramatic. Well,
we're working with him. So, I mean, there's other stuff we have going with him.
Right. Okay.
And he's here. He's in Seattle.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you for 5 years of service.
Stay strong in all of this. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Victoria Beach, thanks for taking the time, and we'll stay in touch, okay?
Yep, we will.
The Chino Y Chicano podcast is available on your favorite podcast provider.
You can watch the video version on YouTube. And Converge Media, a leading producer of culturally relevant content in the Pacific Northwest. We'll talk more later.